Welcome to Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services of Eastland. Tune in every Monday morning at 8:30 on KATX and KWBY, and again on Saturday morning at 9 on KATX and KWBY as Angela Robinson joins Terry Slavens to share important financial information to help you live life on purpose. Insurance, investments, estate and tax planning, and much more. All covered now on Life Planning 101.
And welcome in Life Planning 101 on this windy, blustery Monday morning. I woke up this morning, it was 61. By the time I got to the office, it was 49. So
it is nuts out there. So I was asked when I walked in the door by Crash if I needed to redo my hair. It's a good thing it's radio this morning. That's all I got to say. But I'm happy to be here on Life Planning 101 this morning on Veterans Day. I first and foremost want to make mention of our veterans and those that are serving our country today. You know, I spent last Christmas away from my 6-year-old at the time and my husband, and the sacrifices that all of you have made for our country, for our freedom, and for everything that we get to enjoy and be as Americans. We cannot thank you enough, and just wish that God blesses each one of you and your families abundantly for your service and what you do for our country. So we thank you first and foremost. But we are going to talk about something, being done with debt. Yes, I know. And in fact, I'll be honest with you. When I went to write the show last week, I was not going to write on this topic at all. And I got an email in my inbox from Think Advisor, which is a magazine that I read. And it had a title about the 10 scariest retirement statistics in 2019. So I clicked on it and I went to read about it, and most of it was about debt. The 10 scariest retirement statistics
are about debt.
Wow. So I want to share some of these with you because this is why I want to do the show. I want people to know they can be done with debt. And you don't have to hire someone. You don't have to buy a system. You don't have to do anything crazy. You can be done with debt. It's a choice that you can make, and we're going to tell you how to do it right here on Life Planning 101 today. So you don't want to miss that. And I think it's even more important as we enter the holiday season to be thinking this way, right? Because what do we start doing on, well, I guess they start now on Thanksgiving Day, is that right? Black Thursday,
Friday.
Right? So forget Thanksgiving. Let's just go to spending money, right? But let's just take a look at these statistics that came out of this. This is crazy, okay? Number one, credit card interest in 2018 was $113 billion. Wow, right. It's projected to grow about 8% this year. So here we are in a good economy, low unemployment, people are making money, yet they're racking up credit card debt, spending before they get it, right?
Yes.
Number two, only 40.5% of Americans, so that's less than half, report that they're actually spending less than their income.
40, what was that?
40.5%. 40%. Yeah, 40% of Americans are spending less than they make. So that means 60% are spending more than they make. This could be the attributor to the first one, right?
Yes.
That's right. So that is crazy. Number three, consumer debt, which is bad debt. Okay, consumer debt's like credit card debt, things that doesn't have a collateral behind it. It has topped $14 trillion. Now we're in the trillions. Okay, we're talking about national debt when we get in the trillions, right? So baby boomers, on average, are carrying over $95,000 of consumer debt apiece. Yes, baby boomers, all right? Generation X is beating them, though. Are you ready? On average, $134,000.
And consumer debt.
This is not mortgages. No. This
not
is
your cars.
No, this is consumer debt.
Right.
Okay, so let's add to this. Okay, we're going to keep this list growing because this. You can see why I stopped and why I decided to do something on this. I mean, this is bad. But, you know, the thing is that I think each one of us struggle with something in our life. And if this is you or someone that you know, you can stop the pain. You can be able to change things around. I mean, we have a great economy. We have all the tools set up for you to be able to do it. You just got to be able to do it, right?
Right.
Number 4, of the 77 million Americans that have credit files, like on Experian or TransUnion or Equifax, right? 35% of those, okay, so that's almost 27 million people, have an item on their report that has been in collections. 35%. And number 5, student loan debt for baby boomers and Generation Xers, so baby boomers and Generation Xers, increased by 7% over the last 12 months, ending in March of 2019. I couldn't get any sooner statistics than that. So on average, a baby boomer has a balance of $34,703 of student loan debt, and Gen Xers, you're beating them again, with $39,000. Okay, so that's some big numbers. That's some things to talk about. Okay, now we talk about Generation X. We talk about baby boomers. Why am I talking about those two groups in particular? Well, if you're a baby boomer, you know what's on your mind: retirement, right? You're thinking, okay, what's my exit strategy? When is it going to happen? And it's usually the what I say the ultimate 5-year rule. So if you ask any baby boomer when they plan to retire, the answer will be, well, about 5 years.
Right.
And you ask them next year when they plan to retire, they're going to say, about 5 years. And it keeps on going on. So it's always the same, right? But Generation X is starting to get into that mode. We're working with more and more Xers as they turn 50, 55 years old that are wanting to be able to work on their retirements because they know, they see it. It's in sight. They're even wanting to retire at 55 years old.
Right.
Okay. So this is some big stuff for this two groups of people to be able to get cleaned up, right? And I'd say, it's a good habit, of course, for anybody to clean up their consumer debt and clean up what I call bad debt, okay? And if you'll notice, we talk about being done with debt. We say being done with bad debt because there is such thing as good debt.
Sure.
And, if you are a Dave Ramsey follower, he's not going to tell you that. And the reason he's not going to tell you that is because he's speaking to the masses. Okay, so if you can be a good manager of your money, there is such thing as good debt. There is such thing as being able to leverage a dollar, and it makes sense to be able to do that when you can pay for it.
Right.
Okay, but when you can't pay for it, it becomes bad debt overnight. So, the biggest thing is being able to look at your long-term financial picture and figuring out, okay, what is beneficial to me. And, I was listening to a show this morning. You saw me trying to take notes, and I was like, I can't think. Okay, so I was listening to a show this morning by Joyce Meyer. I always try to listen as I get ready on the radio days because it just pumps up my energy listening to these powerful people talk on YouTube. And she was saying, we spend our whole life spending, right? We spend our whole life spending. We spend our time.
Right.
We spend our energy. And we spend our money, right? So she was talking in reference to our faith. Today she was talking about to the people in her audience about being there for 3 hours. Spending that time was going to help them the next day, the day after, the next day, the next day, the next day, the next day. It was a good investment of their time, right? And so I'm going to challenge your way of thinking that when you just go to spending money, especially in this holiday season, ask yourself, what is this going to do for tomorrow for me? What is this going to do for the next day for me? And the next day, and the next day, and the next day.
A lot of people wake up with buyer's remorse.
That's exactly right. So, we use a adage in our business all the time. We tell people, when it comes to spending your money, you spend it on the necessities. Then you spend it on memory making and other people, because those are the things that invest in your future, right? If you're going to spend your money, you can't lose a memory. You'll have it for the rest of your life, right? And when you give, what does it do for you?
It makes you feel better.
Oh, it's an amazing thing, right? And to be able to see the fruit of the Spirit is just as awesome. So, I'm going to challenge your way of thinking today. I'm going to challenge, if you are somebody that is in bad consumer debt, I'm going to make you be honest with yourself. But we're also going to talk about how to be able to revert these patterns and stop the pain, stop the bleeding right here, so you can make a change today and you can go into 2020 with a lot of confidence, knowing that you're on the path to be done with bad debt.
Segment 2, Life Planning 101. We're talking about consumer debt this morning.
Yes, being done with consumer debt, with bad debt, right? And we talked about some pretty scary statistics, especially for baby boomers.
Halloween was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, I keep bringing up all this scary, gory stuff, right? But, I think the biggest thing is we talk about all the time, progress starts by telling the truth.
Right.
And who do you have to tell the truth to?
Yourself.
You have to do it. So you have to ask yourself, do you have bad debt? Do you have debt that is not going to advance your picture tomorrow, that's not going to make your life a better thing in the future? And if the answer is yes, I do have debt that equates to that, it's called bad debt.
Right.
Okay, there's just no two cents about it. And, I think my dad always talked about this, and he's not much of a writer, so to say, but he always said, I want to write a book, How to Say No. And, there was a lot of truth to that. And what he meant in a lot of the context was how to say no to your children, right? Because a lot of times we enable our kids by letting them, one last time we'll give them money, or one last time we'll do this for them, or one last time we'll do that for them, right? But he was also saying, how to say no to yourself. How do we do that as Americans? We have this bigger barn syndrome here, don't we? We have this great barn, yet when we get a little extra, what do we want to do?
Add on,
right? And we do that as Americans. And I'm reading this great book by Andy Stanley, by the way. I just finished it. He has 2 wonderful books. I would highly recommend for anybody, The Grace of God, by the way. That is recommendation for today's show. He has another book about curing the heart. And he talks in that book about one of the thieves of the heart is greed. And he says nobody likes to admit that they're greedy. In fact, I get offended if people said I was greedy, but I have bigger barn syndrome. I'm an American. So in essence, I'm greedy, right? And he talks about how to cure that in the book. And of course, this is a faith-based book, so it talks about giving and the power of that. And, I think we live in that world, though, that's so true, that we live in that world that it starts to consume us. It starts to consume us to the point that now we have 40% of Americans that are actually spending more than they have coming in because they have to have that bigger barn, right? So you have to ask yourself, are you telling yourself no? Is it a waste of your time, your money, and efforts to spend money on programs that are going to help you clean things up if all you're going to do is fall back into the same traps?
Yeah, it's a waste.
Yeah, you can't do it, and yet you do it. Yet we do it as Americans. Think about the diet industry in January. Think about the gym industry in January. How much, if there was like a indice for that in the stock market, what you would see is you'd see like flatline, October, November, dip in December, way dip in December, and then it like peak up in January, right? And it all falls back apart because people lose their motivation or whatever because they haven't told themselves the truth.
Right.
They wanted the quick fix, but they didn't tell themselves the truth. How do I say no to myself? I told you I was going to just hammer it in. This is bad, isn't it? But we all need it. We all need to be able to look in the mirror and say, where am I at today? And what do I need to do to make some changes? And maybe it is you need to get to the root of the problem. Find out why you have that habit. Maybe you need to have an accountability partner. Somebody that you don't want to have as accountability partner because they're actually going to hold you accountable to things, right? And then you need to be able to get to work. And I think a lot of people, the reason they subscribe to debt relief programs or how to get out of debt or Dave Ramsey stuff, and I'm not, again, I'm not downing any of those because I think all of them can have a place, especially if you don't know what you're doing. However, it's not going to fix your problem. The problem is, how did you get there in the first place? And you got to fix that root first, because otherwise, if you don't dig up the root, what's going to keep happening?
It's going to grow right back up.
It's going to grow.
And sometimes twice as big.
And strong. Yes, exactly. I am literally working out in my yard. That little green foliage that people put underneath their trees and stuff? Okay. So I've killed this for 2 years straight. Killed it, sprayed it. And the reason why is we don't want snakes around for our boys, right? So I can't kill it. I cannot kill it. So I was out there this weekend just digging up those roots. And I'm going to tell you, they were in there good after 2 years of spraying this stuff, right? Because I thought that spray was going to work. Well, that's that debt program. It's the spray. It's going to kill all the leaves. It's going to make it look ugly, but it's not going to fix the problem. You got to get in there and start telling yourself, this is what I've got to fix. This is the things I've got to get to, right? So now that you've got that rough conversation over, We done? We good?
We're good.
Everybody's on an honest page. We're looking in the mirror. We say, this is our issue, right? So we can start on the next page. And that's what's going to happen right here when we come back on Life Planning 101. You don't want to miss it. Be done with bad debt.
Final segment, Life Planning 101, bad consumer debt. What
Yes.
can you do about it?
Being done with it. And we had a pretty rough conversation in segment 2 of the show, just being
Glad that
honest
was
with
over.
yourself. I'm glad that's over, right? But it's got to be the root, right? You've got to take care of that first. And then, I'm going to have some big spoiler alerts for all of those debt programs out there today. I'm telling you, because I'm just going to tell you how it is and how you get rid of it and how you be done with it, because it's super simple. The reason that most people end up with a debt program, like we talked about, is they just want to put the miracle drug on there.
Right.
And they don't want to actually get to the root of the problem because it's too difficult to be able to do that. So now that we've had that rough conversation, it's time to look at your budget. Okay? If you don't have a budget, you need to stop right here and get a budget. Okay? Start figuring out, where do you spend your money on what? You're going to find a lot of the root of the problem in that, being able to look at that. And you need to be able to figure out where you can cut back expenses the next 12 to 24 months. If you want to get debt cleaned up, you got to find extra cash. There is no, we're going to clear all your debts and be done with it. Consolidate your debts and be done with it. No, you're just building on a bigger problem. You have to find extra cash in your budget. Yes, those might be able to help you, may not. Not going to recommend, because that's an individualized situation,
Right.
but it won't help you if you can't find extra cash in your budget no matter what. So you've got to work on that, number one. And there's tons of things out there, like little debt, budget things you can get on your app. You can write it out. You can use an Excel spreadsheet, but I would recommend husband and wife sit down and go over this together and see where you're spending money and where you can cut even the smallest expenses. Look at your iTunes bill. Look at your coffee bill. Look at your donut bill.
Look at the things that you sign up for and then you forget about, but
Monthly
they're on
subscriptions.
automatic subscription. They're
Yes.
taking $29.95 every month.
Yes, exactly. You can find a lot of dollars and not have to change much of your lifestyle doing it. So, start on that first, okay? And then number 2, find out what your credit's like. Okay, we talked about, 35% of Americans with a credit report had a, bad credit
Collection, yeah.
collection agency, right? Now, I was trying to think charge off, but it wasn't charge off. It's collection agency. Yes. And so, making that a priority is hugely important. You can go to our website, Kennedy-financial.com. We've had Phil Tyrone on here, 7 Steps to a 720. You can access his stuff. He can help you get that cleaned up no matter how bad it is, and be on your way and well and done. And you need good credit to clean up old bad debt.
Right.
I'm going to tell you, if you don't have it, you could do it, but it's going to be 10 times harder. If you've got great
And more
credit
expensive.
and more expensive. If you've got great credit, you're already well on your way to being able to make things happen. You need to be able to do that. Okay, so after you've got your budget, after you've got your credit in order, okay, which, by the way, you can work on these simultaneously. This is not step 1, step 2. This is step 1 and 2. Okay,
Right.
so then the real work begins. Okay, and what I mean by the real work, and this is step 3 with step 1 and 2. Okay, you can go ahead and start working on this right away. I want you to list out all your debt. And this is what I would be doing with someone if I sat down one-on-one with them. I want to see what the debt balance is. I want to see what the minimum payment is. I want to see what the interest rate is. And I want to see what they're actually paying on that right now. Okay? List out all your debt, all of it. Okay, and then I want you to list out all your good debt, your bad debt, whatever it is. Okay, but we're going to focus on that when I'm making this recommendation. This is focusing on that bad debt. This is not focusing on your mortgage. Their mortgage does not apply into this, nor does your car. Okay, but this is how you work on that bad debt. Once you've got that, you need to look at the highest interest balance that you have. And that needs to be your key honing in. This is the one I've got to pay off first.
Not
right?
the highest balance, the highest interest rate.
Balance, yes. So if you've got one that you're paying 20% interest and one that you're paying 12, focus on the 20, okay? Now, here's how you focus on the 20. Let's imagine that on the 12, you owe $1,000 on that, all right? And you're making a payment of $150 a month. Well, in your budget, you find out, I can pay that off in 2 months period of time and still make the minimum payments on my other payments. Do it. Because if you free up that extra $100 a month or $150 a month, guess what you can do for that higher interest payment?
pay more.
Pay more. Pay all of it. Okay. So you're going to look in that whole picture and find out what can I pay off to get paid off in the next couple months to free up cash to work towards that big interest payment sum. Okay, you want to be able to do that. So focus on those ones that you can get paid down quickly, so that way you can push more money towards that higher interest payment. Another thing that you can look at doing, like I mentioned, you have great credit. It'll help bump things along quite well. Okay, if you get 0% interest offers, credit card interest offers, you can roll some of that money off of that high interest balance or all of it onto there. Here's the key, though. Let's imagine that's a 12-month 0%. I hope you'd be able to find a 20 or 24-month. But if it's a 12-month, you need to be able to plan to pay that off in 11 months, because most of those balloon with interest at the end of that period of time if there's anything left on them. So you do not want anything left on them. And I would recommend paying those off 1 month early just to be safe, right? So whatever that you balances you move, make sure your monthly budget allows for you to be able to pay enough to get that paid over the next 12 months. And that will like supercharge you're cleaning up your bad debt if you're able to use that strategy. You can't use it if you don't have good credit, right? So that's where we say it's going to make it a lot easier. You know, too many people just, they mental account with their debt, and they say, well, if I make an extra payment on this one because it's a higher interest, an extra payment on this one, an extra payment on this one, and they forget about the power of freeing up cash so that they can really make an impact on some of these balances. So it's very important to look at your debt holistically. Spreadsheet it out, look at it holistically, and just figure out what's the quickest way that I can free up cash to pay off these bigger interest balances, right? So it seems logical. It's pretty simple, really. If you just start looking at your own debt, you'll be able to see it. But still, people want that magic pill. There is no magic pill. That is the magic pill. You sign up for a Dave Ramsey show, you know what he's going to tell you? That right there. Okay.
What you just said.
Spoiler alert, right? This is what it's all about, is just being able to figure out how you can be able to pay off those debt balances, free up cash flow and pay off those debt balances. Now, he goes more into paying off your mortgage, paying off your car, but we're talking about consumer debt, the bad debt, because those are the things that you need to focus on. A lot of people go and refinance their houses just to pay off bad debt. I don't advise against that a lot of times. Sometimes it's necessary. But here's why. It doesn't force you to look in the mirror and tell yourself the truth. You need something that's going to, and it's like I tell my kids all the time, I say, if you come and you tell me the truth, you will not be punished. There is no punishment for telling me the truth. Is there consequences of your actions?
Yes.
Yes, there is consequences to your actions, but there is no punishment. Okay? Same thing for you. You have had actions. You have got yourself into bad debt. You have to incur those consequences. If you don't, you're going to end up right back in the same place because you're never going to remember it. But if you don't tell yourself the truth, right, then you're going to end up punishing yourself. And the punishment will come because it'll come right back on you worse than it did before, right? So it's very important that you go back to that root. That's the most important part of the show. Telling yourself the truth. Getting to a place that you can tell yourself no, figure out what your priorities are. You know, heck, buy Andy Stanley's book, Enemies of the Heart. You know, it talks about if you have a need to just buy bigger and better and bigger barn syndrome, maybe you need to fix what that need is. Figure out what's going on with that. But, you know, there's a lot of good debt programs out there. A lot of people don't need them. What they need is a cleansing. They need a cleansing to be able to look at what direction they want to go and get some accountability. So why not make a plan? You know, here's, you know, the way I look at it. How much daily stress do you carry just carrying this debt? What if it were gone?
Be wonderful.
Wouldn't it be wonderful?
Absolutely.
Well, do it. Do it. Start out 2020 with a great year. My name is Angela Robinson with Kennedy Financial Services. God bless everyone. God bless our veterans.
Thank you for joining us for Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services of Eastland. Tune in every Monday morning at 8:30 on KATX and KWBY, and again on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock on KATX and KWBY for more Life Planning 101.
Advisory services offered through Smart Money Group, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Securities offered through Calton & Associates Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Kennedy Financial Services Incorporated is an independent of Calton & Associates Incorporated and Smart Money Group, LLC.